Hey guys, welcome to the Cash Flow Talk. Today I'm going to share how I bought my first rental property when I was 25 years old. Hey guys, what's going on? Camilo Palacio here, coming from Cash Flow Talk YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Today I want to share about how I bought my first rental property when I was 25 years old, and it was a very exciting story, and I share with my friends, I share with my family because it was a cool story. That tenant didn't end up being the best tenant ever, but I'll share the story with you either way. So if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to my channel below, Cash Flow Talk. We share a lot of experiences, we share a lot of knowledge about being a real estate investor, about buying properties, about flipping, about wholesaling, but also about being a landlord, because ultimately that's our ultimate goal, is to own rental properties so that the positive cash flow pays for our desired lifestyle, and that income makes us financially free. We became financially free through rental income before the age of 30. That was a big goal that I didn't know how I was gonna be able to do it, and I did it through rental properties. So today I want to share about how I bought my first rental property when I was 25 years old, and it was a great story. So the problem is I didn't know what to expect. It was a great deal, so I was making offers. I did my first property was a flip. I did probably about 4 or 5 flips before I became a wholesaler, and then I started getting commissions and getting wholesale fees and saving a little bit of money, and until I was able to have about $25,000 liquid in my bank account. I started playing tennis with a good friend of mine, William Pretty. And I want to share this story, and I want to give his name because I want to give him a big shout out. He's one of the first persons that told me, that gave me that push. Hey, you can do it. You know, it's not that hard. It's not rocket science. You can do it. You just need to know how to do it. So when we were playing tennis, he told me, hey, what you do is you use hard money, and then you buy 20, you use 20 or 25% of the purchase price to buy the property. You use hard money that lends you 70 to 75% of the purchase price. Then you can leverage through your credit cards to buy the material at Home Depot so you can do the repairs. Make sure you buy a property that doesn't need too much money. And that's exactly what I did. And after 6 months, you can refinance and you can cash out. And if you guys are interested, I have a great video that talks about the BRRRR method, which is buy, repair, rent, refinance, repeat. If you guys are interested, watch that video because it explains how you can take all the money out that you put into your first rental properties, how you can cash out and buy another rental property. Anyways, today I'm talking about how I buy my first rental property. So I was playing with the guy, and by the way, I beat him in tennis. That was a great experience. But we started playing, and then as soon as he told me that, I went home and I started looking into hard money loans. Again, I was 24 years old at the moment, and I started making offers. I was making offers like crazy to buy, to do wholesale deals and to get more inventory for flips, until I found a really good property on the market that, in their ad, it said it was a 2 bedroom, 2 bath with a pool, and in a cul-de-sac lot, meaning it was a bigger lot than the usual. You know, a cul-de-sac is when they have a little corner in the property. It's that little lot. It has a little bit of a curve, so it's a bigger lot in the properties. If you don't know what a cul-de-sac is, Google it. You'll understand what I'm talking about. So how I bought my first rental property is I was very uncertain. That was my biggest problem. I didn't know what to expect. It was gonna be my first deal. I had done some flips and some wholesales before. I was gonna put all the cash that I had in my hands into one property. But again, it was a 2-2. It was marketed as a 2-2. So I called a good friend of mine that lives in Boca Raton, which is about 45 minutes away from where I was living. And it was about 6 p.m. on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I remember it was a weekday. And I called these guys saying, hey, it was about 6 p.m. And I told them, like, hey, I cannot make it today to go see that property, but I wanted to go out on tomorrow's list for my wholesale cash buyers. Would you be okay going and looking at it for me? And I'll do the same for you whenever you have a property down in Miami, so you don't have to travel 30 minutes. Let's just share that that work. I'll go look at the properties for you, and you look at the properties for me when they're up north. So he went to see the property, and the first thing he calls me is, Camilo, don't even put it in the email blast. This is a great deal. This is a great property. You're saying it's a 2-2, but it's in reality a 4-2, and I put it under contract for $55,000. It was about 16 or 1700 square feet. It had brand new tile floors. The kitchen had granite countertops. It only needed a nice cleanup, but it did have a pool, and a pool is kind of a negative thing for landlord for properties, because you have more liabilities. You have kids that may drown in there. You have to put a protective baby fence around the pool that costs money, and obviously your taxes and insurance go up if you have a pool. But either way, I told him, man, like I slept over it. I didn't put it in the market, and I told him, hey, don't send your buyers there yet, because these may be my first rental. And he kind of got upset, but he understood my situation. Obviously, I wanted rental properties. Either way, it was my deal. And I told him, listen, I'll pay you back by going looking at the properties. And I mean, we've done plenty of deals together, and we've talked about this situation. But long story short, it was a great deal. I ended up putting it in the I ended up buying it for $55,000, and I put about $15,000 in renovations into the property. So I was all in for about $70,000. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, brand new tile floors, decent bathroom, decent kitchen, nice pool, cul-de-sac lot, and he had a good roof. I just needed some paint and touch up here and there. I repaired a few cabinets that were broken in the kitchen. So I spent about $15,000 making it Section 8 ready, and that was a great experience for me. Now, the tenants, it was another conversation, because my first tenant taught me a lot about having thick skin. She was a Section 8 drug addict lady that had about 7 or 8 kids. All of them were at least 4 of them were under 3 years old. 3 of them were under 3 years old. And so they had, they were very, very young kids, very young babies and toddlers. So it was hard for me to collect rent. I knew they were struggling to pay the rent, to pay their portion, whatever they had to pay, whatever the tenant responsibility was from Section 8. Guys, long story short, I ended up evicting her after about 2 years, because she went behind. She left like 3 or 4 months unpaid, and I had to do an eviction. And it was a process. It was a process for me to learn how to have thick skin, to think about this as a business, not as a charity. I mean, you understand you have kids, but move on to another property. Have somebody else pay for the charity, and be late and don't pay rent on somebody else, not on me. But it was a great process for me, a great learning experience. I went to the property probably monthly to collect rent, and I learned that when they know that you are the landlord, they ask for favors, they ask for help, they try to have the human touch, and then they're nasty with you when you're collecting rent. So that's when I learned, and that's when I thought, okay, what if I don't manage the properties myself? And that was one of my mistakes at the beginning, renting to this lady, because I was so excited about my first rental property. I was so excited about getting my first rental income that I rented it to the first person that brought me a voucher. And a voucher is like an approval for the government to pay the rent and for me to accept them as a tenant. I was so desperate to get that first paycheck, to understand how it worked. And it worked fine for about a year, maybe a year and a half. But after that, it was a crazy nightmare. I learned a lot. I bought a few more rental properties, but I still own that property. That property is not for sale. That's my retirement. I don't believe in 401ks. I don't believe in Social Security. And please don't be offended if you do, but it's just my nature. My retirement, my future is in rental income. I don't believe in any of these government assistance, because I decide my own future and not the government. But that's another topic that we can leave for later on. So if this is you, if you have a rental property, or you've been thinking about buying your first rental properties, go for it and learn the process. The first one is always the hardest one. The first thing that is going to happen with you in a rental property is, don't get too excited with the first tenant that comes in. Qualify them. Make sure you do a background check. Make sure you do a credit check. Make sure you get a clean report from the police. Make sure the background check is good, so they don't have felonies, and they haven't been arrested, they haven't been in jail. And this goes for low income properties and high income properties. Make sure you do your homework. Make sure you have a good security deposit from them. Don't just rent from the first person. That's one of the biggest lessons that I learned from these first rental properties. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I've had low vacancies on my properties, because I qualified my tenants well, and I learned that from my very first rental property. So guys, long story short, I bought the property, I fixed it up, I got it rented, and after 6 months I was able to refinance, because now the banks were willing to value the property at the market value. Before the 6 months, they're going to value the property at your purchase price. And remember, I got it for $55,000. Now the property was worth about $100,000 after I put in all the renovations, and it got rented. Actually, it got rented for $1,800 a month the very first time. So a $55,000 property. I put in $15,000 in repairs, so I was all in at $70,000. Let's say $75,000 without closing costs and everything else. $75,000 to receive $1,800 a month in rental income. That was a great income for about a year and a half. The last 3 months I didn't get paid, but I got her out and I was able to put somebody else in, and today it's rented for about $2,100, and it's a property that is cash flowing every single month. So it's a beautiful business, guys. Don't be afraid of buying rental properties. It's a great deal. And that's just my experience on my very first rental property when I was 25 years old. Guys, if you are interested in buying rental properties in South Florida, please let me know. Even if you're not in South Florida, give me a call if you guys have any questions. Comment below if you have questions, or share with me your own experience. If you have a YouTube channel, also post it below so I can follow it and I can subscribe to your channel. We can support each other. And guys, subscribe to my channel. Guys, I'm not making any money from doing these videos. I'm just sharing my knowledge and my experience, because whenever I watch other people's videos and other investors' YouTube channels, I learn a lot from them. So why not give back, and why not give the value back to you guys as an audience? Guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Again, subscribe, comment below, and check out my other videos, because I talk a lot about my own experiences, rental properties, wholesaling, and flipping properties in South Florida. I'll see you guys next time, and have a great day. Bye-bye.